Silverberg as Raquel in front, back to the blue line. Fowler shoots, scores! The puck is contested, couldn't get it out. Back to the front of the net. Talbot's down, makes the save. Puck squirts loose, a backhand score! Ricard, Raquel, tie game!
Welcome to Across the Pond, ladies and gentlemen. I am Tom Perrott, as always, and I'm just going to discuss all things Anaheim Ducks, because that's what I do. So, if you enjoy the content, click subscribe, like the video. If you're on Apple or Spotify, rate the podcast. It's all greatly helpful. And, as always, thanks to our sponsors, the Hockey Podcast Network. Let's go on with it. It's that time again for the perspective from across the pond. Obviously, I am a Ducks fan through and through, dyed in the wool, as they say. But here, I really want to have a conversation. I want to make it a bit of a mission to grow the sport in general overseas. Just because I think there is a lot of potential in the NHL to reach wider markets, but it's just not given the chance to grow the right way. Now, I'm going to touch on that in a little bit, but from a Scottish perspective, there's already links to the sport with a sport that we have here, ancient sport called shinty. It's a Celtic sport, and it basically is field hockey. A lot of the things that we see in a game of hockey also take place in a game of shinty, minus the knives on the feet and the ice, of course. Not saying it's not cold enough here for the ice, we didn't think of putting those two things together. I think it was skating in Holland, and it somehow made it to Canada. I watched a really good series called Hockey, A People's History, and it explained how the actual nation of Canada only became a nation through hockey, which I love that. I just feel the synonymous nature of the two is what is kind of a romantic view of hockey. Anyway, so there's already links to Britain with hockey anyway, because obviously Lord Stanley himself was an MP in Parliament, and he gave Canada the Dominion Cup, later became the Stanley Cup. And obviously that was made from steel that came from Sheffield, which was massive for steel at the time. Hence Sheffield Steelers and things like that. But yeah, so the history's already there, the links are already established. It's just the relationship that the governing body has with hockey. And what I mean by that is this is definitely more of a problem of how the US sees hockey and its limitations. Let's look at, for example, the NFL. The NFL is massive in the UK. They have a couple of games here every year. They're sold out, and it's done a lot to really grow the sport, really bring the sport into the public view. And one of the reasons for that is the relationship that Americans have with American football, the NFL. It is the granddaddy of sport. Everyone likes it. There's no issue to really grow the sport because everyone enjoys it anyway. And then you look at the hierarchy. So you've got the NFL, NBA, MLB, maybe hockey, then possibly MLS. So the difference is in Canada, for example, hockey is a part of life. People are practically born with skates on their feet. So, as a result of that, it's always hockey all year round in Canada. Whereas in the US, they're all fighting for that slice of the pie, so to speak. And hockey's almost seen as like the embarrassing little cousin or little brother of the more major sports. And as a result of that, they don't really feel the need to market it because they already make bank off of what they do market to the likes of the UK. Which is a shame, but that's what happens when you have a governing body of a sport that doesn't see that sport as the main priority. So because the governing body is, people like Gary Bettman, US, if this was in Canada, you could argue that they would do more for the sport. The sport would grow naturally because it is the priority. But who knows? Anyway, not to go too far into the overall hockey conversation, although it is something I really do want to talk about in the future. I would love to speak to people about that. If you've got opinions, send me a message, send me an email, painttoorange1985@outlook.com. From there, we can have a chat about, what the issue is with growing the sport and that sort of thing. Taking it back over the water, from a Glaswegian perspective, obviously being from Glasgow myself, what I see is generally people in Glasgow will avoid sport because of, weirdly to say, the religious implications of following a sport or the social standing of following a sport. So as a result of that, you tend to get this kind of what we call Scotland shame, which is it's moronic. Anyone that's from the outside looking in, it must look like a mental asylum, but that is what we have here in Glasgow, in particular in the west of Scotland. And now a quick word from our sponsors.
Light the lamp during the hockey playoffs with DraftKings Sportbooks. Right now, new customers can make a $5 bet and score $150 in bonus bets instantly. If you fancy a punt on the Vegas Golden Knights and Dallas Stars, currently there are many options available. You can put on shots on goal, goalie props, team totals, game props, game parlays, playoff series props. At the moment you're getting plus 1.5 on Vegas Golden Knights. You're getting negative 1.5 on Dallas Stars, obviously with the way the series is playing out. So yeah, gamble responsibly. That's code THPN, only at DraftKings Sportbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org in New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, KS 21+ in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for offer details. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Let's face it, with coffee starting at $5, £5 if you're where I am, sometimes even more, even without any customizations, and our bank accounts always feel the pinch of that, then most people are really looking for a good deal, a good way to save some cash, but still keep the quality that you expect from your purchase. Enter Raycon. Yes, you've probably heard the name before. Raycon are the fastest rising headphone brand on the planet. Most people will recommend them because of 1, the price point, 2, the quality, and where you can save a few pounds or a few dollars depending on where you are. That's always a welcome thing in this climate. Most products do the same thing but are priced differently, solely based on the brand name. So you spend more money and ultimately you think you're getting a better product. That's not always the case. As someone who works closely with audio on a daily basis, I am actually a sound engineer, so I understand the need for things to work a certain way. Raycon is premium audio at the perfect price point so you can listen to what you want, when you want, without breaking the bank. Say for example, you're on a long journey and usually you get maybe 5-6 hours out of your headphones. Raycon will last for 8 hours of playtime. That's good if you're going from one side of the UK to the other. Say you decide to go from London to Aberdeen by car. There's 3 customizable sound profiles. There's earbud tap functions, and of course awareness mode and noise insulation. So go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get 15% off your order. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score 15% off buyraycon.com/THPN. They have over 50,000 5-star reviews, so yeah, definitely go and pick yourself up a quality set of headphones, earbuds, at a fantastic price point. Let's get back to it. Who will be the next coach of the Anaheim Ducks? I'll make a few different cases here for a few different candidates. I won't go into depth to all of the candidates' names that are out there, because if I did, this video would be about 3 hours long, and I genuinely don't have the time to edit that sort of thing. As much as I love talking about the Ducks, there is a limitation of time that I can really put for that. So, candidate number 1, Andrew Brunette. Now, I really like Andrew Brunette, potentially. Much like the Ducks, he has a lot to prove, and with the talent pool that we have available, I think that could be quite an exciting link-up. Someone with new, modern, fresh ideas, but with a reasonable experience, because obviously he did manage the Florida Panthers as interim and did quite well during that period. You could argue, again, the modern approach, Aikens fits that bill, but perhaps Aikens is a bit more one-dimensional, not willing to change things up when they're not working. I think that's probably the guy's downfall a little bit. So aside from the hilarious video of Brunette in his golf caddy getting pulled over by the police because he'd had one too many sweet sherries, whatever it is that he drinks, and he's trying to convince the police to let him away with it because he somehow coached the Florida Panthers. I think, what was it? It says, you know, I coached the Panthers, and they basically said, we don't care. Yep, no, that was a bit of a bat down. But yeah, funny video. As long as he can chin that side of things, I'm all for him as a coach. I think he'd be an excellent appointment. His record's good, 51 wins, 18 losses during his Florida Panthers time. Coached them during the 2021 season on an interim basis. Good experience, but fresh enough where it's not going to feel like just recycling old ideas. Mike Babcock. Now, this I really do have to take with a pinch of salt. I don't know if someone is trolling when they've suggested this option. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and downcry what Mike Babcock did during his time in Anaheim. I think the nearly moment that he gave us, again, is written in the history of the club, but it needs to stay there. This is a guy who's uncompromising, and he's just old school in a very old school way. Can you imagine Mike Babcock coaching Trevor Zegras? Zegras does something, so he tries to pull off a Michigan or, you know, a couple of dakes and he misses, and Babcock's giving him the business, and, you know, Zegras is just sitting there shrinking like a wee violet. It's a players' league now. You know, you can't really get away with treating people the way that Mike Babcock does, and then he's done worse, to be fair. So, but we're not going to talk about that here. This is about the Ducks. I'm not going to sit and go through historic NHL issues, of which there are many. I just feel like that would be a potential public relations nightmare. I really don't see that. I'm just going to end that talk there on him. Jay Leach, assistant coach with Seattle Kraken for the past 2 seasons, been in charge of a defence group that's allowed the second fewest shots per game. So when you look at Anaheim's needs, things that we definitely need to improve on, we were outshot in every game, I think, of last season. So more shots being stopped before they get to Gibson. I would say that's a pretty solid option. We also allowed the most goals per game. So, Jay Leach, I think that's a reasonable shout. Mike Vellucci, assistant coach with the Pittsburgh Penguins for the past 3 years. He's been responsible for the team's offence and penalty kill, which ranked 3rd overall, 21-22, did fall in 22-23. We would benefit greatly from that because, again, our penalty kill is shambolic and our offence is dreadful. He also won the Calder Cup in 18-19, named AHL Coach of the Year. So, decent option. Peter Laviolette, this is not a terrible option. Aside from my own point of view, it actually is a fairly good appointment. He's got a very respectable record, but he also coached that Nashville side, the one that was so affectionately, the fans were called Trashville for a reason. And the human mind is a very petty thing. I can't sit here and say that I would be excited about Peter Laviolette taking over. So he's definitely got the credentials to make it work. But he's also not got the best postseason record, so you very well might be getting another Bruce Boudreau. Maybe. Speaking of Bruce, that's another one that's been going about, Bruce Boudreau. And although I really like Bruce Boudreau, I don't see him as the right coaching option. As Ryan Kessler said on Spittin' Chicklets, he's a sweetheart, and I feel like he would get taken advantage of so badly. He just seems like too nice a guy, in my opinion. I think his time as a coach probably came to an end. He might get a job, might surprise me there, but he's doing the pundit thing and he seems to be enjoying himself. All the best to Bruce, but I really can't see that as a feasible option. Out of these selections, because I'm sure after naming these I have to have a preference, for me it would be Brunette. He's the right amount of experience. He's already coached at an NHL level, albeit on an interim basis, but he's still got a lot to prove. And I think that is a recipe for success. He's also exciting enough. It's not this same old manager merry-go-round, the coach merry-go-round. So, yeah, I could get on board with that appointment. So, yeah, as long as he doesn't decide to go driving his golf caddy half-cut, I'm all for the appointment. I think Brunette is the right guy for the job. So, Fantilli Watch. I have watched a fair amount of the IIHF Championship games. Good games, really good games of hockey, nice and competitive. There's been a few upsets, stuff that you really wouldn't even expected. And talking about Adam Fantilli has looked alright in the preliminaries, but it's been on a Canada side that's been pretty dull. They've won games. They haven't been great to watch. And you compare that to Leo Carlsson being on a Swedish side that was basically exciting to watch. Carlsson comes off looking a lot better at this point. Statistically, there's not a lot in it. Up until yesterday, Carlsson had 2 goals. Fantilli had none. Fantilli scored yesterday an excellent goal. To describe it, if you haven't seen it, he just took advantage of poor defensive play. He finds himself gliding into the zone, slight deke, and just rips it past the goalie. It's perfect. I mean, it's exactly what you want from a centre, so you can't complain. And it's good that he's on the board. I don't have a horse in the race in terms of who wins it. I don't really care too much. I'm just watching it to see how Adam Fantilli does, because I really do believe that we take him second overall. No disrespect to Carlsson, I think he is a cracking player. He will be a great NHLer, and Columbus will have a great player on their hands, but I just don't see us looking past Adam Fantilli and the qualities that he would bring to Anaheim. That's the thing with sport. Generally what I've been seeing is most people tend to agree with that consensus, but certainly there's a fair few on Twitter, and I don't know if this is trying to throw things out into the universe to engineer it in a certain way, you know, like a reverse psychology sort of, oh yeah, he's not good enough, this, that, the next thing. You know, Anaheim will take Carlson and the Blue Jackets will take Fantilli, and you're like, I mean, is that more wishful thinking, or is that actually what you think? I don't think there's much in it. I just think we take Fantilli second. What we have in sport is a lot of people with a lot of opinions, a 5-minute memory bank, and fairly reactionary. I don't think that even if Fantilli had a bad tournament, that it would change the selection process in Anaheim. I think the body of work will be over everything that he's done, rather than the tournament itself. I don't think Verbeek reads the Twitter feeds, to be honest, so I don't see that being in any way impactful. Another game that I was able to watch, I got up at 3 a.m. The other day to watch the Memorial Cup game between, Zellweger and Gaucher. It was a good game, really good game. The score was probably higher than what you would have expected, because I don't think the Blazers played bad. I don't think they got blew out the way that the scoreline would suggest. In terms of Gaucher, I think he looks good. A nice, big, strong guy. I think he'll definitely have something in the future. Zellweger is one that proper excites me, though. Everything I've seen with Zellweger, his puck handling, his pace, his vision, he's a different class. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. I'm not going to lie. So I've been sitting kind of working out the lines in my mind a little bit, and I'm looking at the needs of the team. You look at the depth chart, and the one thing that we don't seem to have is real quality on left wing. We've got a few good right wingers, we've got great centres, we've got good defensemen coming through, and we've got John Gibson. We don't have left wingers, and as a result, I think that's something that we'll need to address in maybe the later draft rounds, or maybe in free agency. I don't know. I guess it depends where the team is and what we expect to achieve next year. Are we going to make the playoffs? It's too early to tell. Let's just enjoy things for what they are right now, and we can have that conversation later. The intention is to do these 2 weekly, life permitting, of course. So hopefully that's something I'm able to keep up. If not, we'll maybe miss a week here or there. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, like the video. If you're listening to the podcast, just audio, then rate the podcast, leave a comment. If you want to get involved, as ever, paintitorange1985@outlook.com. And it's been great chatting Anaheim. I'll see you next time.